Hello everyone and welcome to Module 8. In Module 8, we'll be building our own LoRa Gateway. That is a nano gateway for data transmission. In the previous modules, we've been able to build an IoT system. And now we want to transmit these measurements from an IoT system to get to servers where we want to store and visualize the data. So let's go ahead and start. Next, we will cover the materials required. I'll scroll down, and to be able to build our own LoRa Gateway, we need the microcontroller, the LoP4 that we've been using in the previous modules. Then we need the micro USB cable to power the system. As usual, of course, we need a computer that has Visual Studio Code and PyMaker already installed. Then we need the PyCom antenna and a cable to connect it. We need Wi-Fi connection because we'll be transmitting data from the IoT system using LoRa network to the gateway, and from the gateway we'll be using the internet. So the LoRa Gateway here receives data through LoRa Wide Area Network from the IoT system, then connects to the internet to transmit the data to the servers. Finally, we need the LoP casing because we wouldn't want to build a gateway that stays without a casing, so we need to have something that is decent enough. In terms of the softwares that we need 3 files. In the discussions in the presentation where we were discussing building a LoRa Gateway, I mentioned about these files in details. So the first one is used to boot the system and calls the libraries from the other files. Config file contains the configurations, that is for the server and the network. And the nano gateway, that is nanogateway.py file. These are files that contains the libraries used to control all the packet generations and forwarding the LoRa data. The next step that we'll have to do would be to extract first of all the gateway ID using the script below. We'll demonstrate that. So let's go ahead and have a look at the components that are required. So let's look at the items that we need. The first one is a microcontroller that we have here, and in this case we're using the LoP4, once again that what we've been using from the beginning. Then we need the power cable, we have it here. Then we need the antenna, which comes with its cable. So this is a cable here, and then this is a antenna. And of course, to be able to connect it, you'll see at the end of the antenna it has some threads, so screw it together to attach it. Of course, it has some gap because of the casing. And then we need Wi-Fi connection. I have my Wi-Fi connection, so ensure you also have your Wi-Fi connection. And of course, when you received your LoP4, you also received it inside a case. You can decide you can use it. It serves well, so you can open it once, puncture a hole somewhere so that you can allow the antenna to be connected to and the cable can go inside. So that's what we'll be using to connect to as a casing, because it's not good to have the connection between the cable, to have your LoP gateway hanging. So it's good to have it in a case. And of course, you have your computer with the Visual Studio Code and PyMaker installed. Let's go ahead and start making the connection. And the first connection we're going to do is connecting the antenna to the microcontroller. And to be able to do this, I'll demonstrate because we have different options and you have to be careful where you place the connection. In this slide, we see the development board, which is connected to the expansion board. And at the top edges are the edges, that is the top left and the top right and the bottom left, we have points where you connect the antenna. At the top left, you see that it's written LoRa in brackets 433 MHz antenna. At the top right, we see it's written 868/915 MHz LoRa or Sigfox antenna port. And to the bottom left, we see the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth external antenna. In this case, we have an external antenna that is a LoRa/Sigfox antenna. So it operates on a frequency of 868/915. So the top right corner is where we'll connect our antenna. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. So here we have the antenna and we have the microcontroller. Hold it with the LED facing the top. So we have the LED at the edge here. And to the right, we have a port where we connect the antenna. So I'll go ahead and place it, and make sure you use your thumb to fit it until it clicks. So once you place it there, press it until it clicks, and make sure that it's firm. So once again, I'm going to repeat. This antenna, the antenna that we've provided, will be connected to the top right, that is to the right hand side of the LED in the development board. Once you've completed that, the next step would be to connect micro USB port. I'll go ahead and connect that, and as usual, the other end of it will connect to the computer. I'll connect it to my computer at the USB port. So we've managed to connect the antenna, and we've connected the micro USB, and we've connected the cable, the entire microcontroller to the computer. Let's go ahead now and start Visual Studio Code. Now navigate to the folder that contains all the files for this exercise. Open the folder, navigate to module 8 in this case. Then we have the folder that contains the files. Select that folder, click on it and select it. It will open. Inside it, you'll see the different files. I'll go now back to the slides, and you'll remember I mentioned to you that there are different files required for this process. That is the softwares, the main.py, the config.py, and the nanogateway.py. If I go back, you'll see that we have the config.py, we have the main.py, and we have the nanogateway.py. Of course, the boot is used for restarting the system immediately you power it. But the main files that are required in this case are those 3 files. So go ahead and upload these files to the microcontroller by following the upload link at the bottom. And the first step it will do is to remove the previous files. Immediately it completes removing the previous files, it will upload the new files. So right now our microcontroller contains the files required for the Nano Gateway. The next step we need to do would be to edit the files. I mentioned that the main.py file requires some slight modification. The config.py also requires some slight modification, but the nanogateway.py requires no modification. Let's go ahead to those different files. The main.py, this is the one that assembles all the other, it calls all the other libraries together and then controls them. And in this case, we'll have a look. For my case, I don't need to do any editing. The nanogateway.py, this one we mentioned that no modification is required. But in the config.py, this is the part that you have to provide the necessary files. And the first thing that you need to do in line 16 and 17 of the script, you need to provide the name of your Wi-Fi connection, that is the one that you're using, and the password, because it will need them to be able to connect to the internet. The modification that is also required in the config.py file is a frequency. If you're in the EU, then of course you see that this in line from line 24 to 27, I've provided the frequency that is required to connect. But if you're in the US, you might want to use the 29 to 32. For Latin America, I suspect that you may need to use the US frequencies. I'm not sure about that, but we'll test them. If the US frequencies don't work, then definitely probably the EU frequencies will work. For my case, I'll be using the EU frequencies, so I don't need to change anything. If you want to test it, of course, the procedure that you need to do would be to place hash at the beginning of these lines to disable the EU frequencies and remove the hash in the US line 30, 31, and 32. You will have to remove the hash at the beginning so that the frequencies are active, and then save the file. So for my case, I don't have to make any changes. I've already made the necessary changes. The only thing I need to do here is to provide the Wi-Fi details, that is. So if you've managed to enter the information required correctly, especially the Wi-Fi in this case, make sure you provide your Wi-Fi username and your password here, and you've saved it and you've uploaded the files, then the system should be able to run automatically because there's a boot file there, like what I'll demonstrate for my case. You should be able to see something like this at the bottom. If you've provided all the settings correctly and the system has started, then you should be able to see that the system at the bottom here, the terminal, is displaying this information, which means the gateway is on. Then the next thing that we're going to do now is to show you how to register this gateway with the Things network. So let's go ahead and move to the page. And once again, if you have your connection, and I'll demonstrate that. If you have the system and you have the casing that came with a microcontroller, you can use a casing to build something like what I've displayed in the screen below. Yeah, so you should be able to build your own casing by puncturing a hole to the left. So you can puncture a hole to the left so that once you place the microcontroller inside it, then the antenna can be fitted to the left-hand side or whichever side you prefer, so that you have something like what I displayed in the previous slide there. So let's go ahead now and register with the Things network. Follow the link provided to create an account. So I'll go ahead and click on this link, visit. Just in case you don't have an account by now you should have already registered, but just in case you still don't have an account, then go ahead and register. If you have already registered, then you don't need to create another account. What you need to do is simply log in. So instead of registering a second time, go ahead and click at the icon, the Things Network icon at the top, and you should be able to log in. I will log in with my account. Once you've successfully logged in, or if you've created an account and logged in, then the next step would be to go to the top where it's written console and click on console. To the left, you'll see different options, that is the different regions where you can register your gateway. At the bottom, you'll see legacy. Probably if you'll be in July, probably that will have been removed because it's going to be shut down in December, but then of course you won't be able to register from July. So June is the end of the month and I'm in June right now. But you need to select where you want to register. If you're in Europe, then you should be able to select Europe. If you're in Latin America, I'm not sure exactly, but I think maybe you need to register in North America. So for my case, I'm going to use Europe. In the window that follows, I will click on login with I'll provide my email once again and a password. So once you've successfully registered and entered into the Things network, or probably if you are already registered, you've successfully logged in, the next page you'll see has two items. To the left, it says create an application, and to the right, it says register a gateway. In this exercise, we'll be registering a gateway. Then the other section, which is creating an application, that's where you get to register your IoT system. In this, you remember this is a course for building an IoT system. So once you build your IoT system, you get to register it to the left. We'll demonstrate that in module 9. But because in module 8 we're building a gateway, we'll click on this one. The first thing it will show you is your user name. Then the next step would be to give a gateway ID. So make a choice of your own. So decide on a name. I'll call this one my gateway, or I can call it Douglas Gateway. Ensure that they are all in lowercase and avoid spaces. Here it says gateway ID must contain only lowercase, numbers, and dashes. So let me remove the underscore and instead use a dash. That one accepted. Here we need to provide a gateway EUI. Remember, I demonstrated to you how to extract that, and I also showed you that in the config.py file, line 6, 7, and 8 has a script for extracting that unique ID. So that line is already embedded. So as opposed, you can choose to run it separately, which is by using the gateway ID. If you run this, it will give you that. But we don't have to repeat that process. We can simply let's go to the script that is running. So your gateway is still running by now. But if you scroll up at the lower section, we have the ID here. It already generated that ID. So that is the EUI. So I'll go ahead and copy this. And I'll go back to the page and I'll enter and I'll paste it there. I'll be asked to provide a gateway name. So these items, the ones in star are the ones that are absolutely necessary. But these ones are not necessary, but of course I would advise you to enter them. So I'll give it a gateway name. A description, provide any form of description that you may want to provide. Okay, once you've provided a short description like that, the rest I don't think is important. So go ahead, scroll down and click on Create Gateway. It says here you need to select your frequency plan. And in this case, I'm using the EU. And my option is the first option. That is, yeah, the first option should be able to work. And I'll register the gateway. So we have our gateway registered with the Things Network. So if you follow the steps correctly, we managed to build our gateway by assembling the different parts. We uploaded the files to it, and we were able to provide the necessary information. That is, and edited the files to provide the Wi-Fi connections and any other information required. And we were able to start our gateway, and then now we've registered our gateway with the Things Network. If you followed all the steps correctly, then you should have your gateway registered. You may choose also to define the location so that you can be able to view it in the Things Network map. So here you will need to provide your details. I haven't provided my location, but of course you can choose to provide your location here. And immediately, like you can see here, if you're in Latin America, you can navigate to your location and provide the details. It will automatically enter the latitude and longitude and the altitude. Then you will save the changes. So that's everything on that part. If you want to the left, of course, if you want to provide more details, you can check on, like I created my gateway here. You can see the live activities that are taking place. You can see the location. You can add collaborators. Then you can provide an API key, that is if you want to view it from an API. And this is back to the settings that we provided when we were registering this gateway. So you can choose to edit some of them or provide more information. That's the end of this. So we have built our gateway successfully. See you in the next module. Thank you.